Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Mitchum, and I'll be giving a presentation on my literature review and my findings from that literature review for CSM 581. My focus during this review was retirement trends and practices within the United States and within Europe. The first half of the articles that I reviewed focused on the factors that influence what age you retire at. Primarily, this was health focused, but we also discussed financial reasons, social reasons, and the push and pull, negative and positive effects of your job. The second half of the articles that I reviewed focused on the savings and investment planning as you prepare for retirement. This discussed market risk, savings rates, savings trends, and what people are doing in preparation for retirement in the United States and Europe. So the first article that I reviewed was a study that focused on retirees and workers 45 years and older. They answered a series of questions from a self-administered questionnaire. And this article found that retirees age 65 or younger were more likely to retire due to ill health, and that participants older than 65 were more likely to retire due to reaching normal retirement age. This indicated that people tend to retire early, not on their own terms, but because they are physically unable to continue their job or other reasons. And that people reaching 65 are retiring only because that is the standard age to retire. This was not necessarily true for women as much as it was for men. Women are more likely to retire early in order to care for a family or friend, maybe an elderly parent or grandparent who requires assistance. And in general, women retired earlier than men. Retiring early or being unemployed early was associated with higher levels of psychological distress or lower mental health. This was especially true with men, who generally associate their self-worth with their ability to work and provide for their families and themselves and produce for society. And the author noted a trend that men who retire kind of lose their purpose and they have declining levels of mental health. The second article that I reviewed measured the effects of becoming a grandparent on your decision to retire early in Europe. It covered 22 countries in Europe, and the typical age in Europe to retire is 65. The author pointed out that there were two levels of reasons to retire. One was institutional and one was individual. The institutional reason to retire is typically reaching the retirement age of 65, and individual reasons were a little different. The one that popped up the most for him was physical necessity to stop working, which was your decline of health, which was similar to the article that we just discussed. And then the more positive reason that individuals were retiring early was they had the option to do so because of their financial independence. And they were in a good place in life and they could retire. And this was most common, or more common among people with grandparents or grandchildren. Grandparents are more likely to retire between the ages of 55 and 60 than people without grandchildren. They're more likely to retire later towards the institutional age of 65. Once again, this article indicated that women are more likely to retire early, which is a trend that I noticed. The third article that I reviewed discussed the impacts of the baby boomer generation reaching retirement age and their ability to start withdrawing Social Security benefits. The first baby boomer, Kathy Kirschling, she was born on the 1st of January, just after midnight in 1946. She became old enough this year, or excuse me, in 2008, the year of this study, to draw Social Security. And she decided to draw early at the age of 62 and retire early for mostly personal reasons. She wanted to spend more time with her family and things like that. The author was worried that this was going to be a trend among baby boomers, that they were going to start drawing early and therefore put more burden on society and the Social Security system. However, after studying the MetLife survey, within this within this article, they interviewed 1,000 baby boomers who were born in the year 1946 and found that the trend is not to necessarily pull out your Social Security benefits early, and that a third are going to wait until they can get full benefits after the age of 66. But the trend within this article that the author noticed is that people are not retiring before age 65 as often anymore, and that they're going to have to remain in the workforce longer. The fourth article that I reviewed discussed the health implications and why people retire early. And this was a Danish study where the author interviewed 30 employees between the ages of 60 and 64 who retired during that age period. And he found that 50% of the individuals that he studied retired early due to ill health for one reason or another. And he found that the median retirement age was 61, which is once again earlier than 65, which indicates that people are retiring before they plan to. And as part of the study, found that they were retiring before they planned to because of their poor health. The reasons their health influenced their decision was first because they were unable to do their work anymore. Second was that they perceived that they wouldn't be able to do their work soon, and so they should get out of the workforce now. And then third is that their employers kind of forced them out of the job because they couldn't quite fill the role anymore. Several interviewees indicated that good health encouraged them to leave the workforce, and that they should take advantage of their health while they still had it and not waste their years working and waiting until they got sick. The fifth article was written about the same study, about the same authors, but it's from a different perspective. So once again, he interviewed 30 individuals that retired between the ages of 60 and 64. And this article evaluated the push and pull factors that led people into retirement. And the idea is that push factors kind of force you into retirement against your terms and against your will, and you don't really want to do it, so it's a negative event. Where pull factors are the positive factors from outside of your work that pull you into retirement, and it's a good thing. Push factors were elderly workers no longer had the skill or the knowledge necessary to conduct their work, and they didn't want to invest the time and effort to learn new skills, or their employer no longer saw them as a good investment. So the employer would rather invest in the younger worker and kind of force that older worker out of the job. And the push factors kind of indicated ageism, which I found interesting, that some people are retiring due to ageism rather than their own personal desire. Pull factors were the more positive ones, which was usually wanting to spend more time with their family, traveling, doing things on their own terms, and they no longer wanted to work because that was holding them back from this. All right, the sixth article that I reviewed was about women and their timing of Social Security benefits. Once again, this article indicated that women retired earlier than men, which is a continuous trend I've found. But this article kind of bridged the gap towards indicating how people are going to afford to retire. And he found that the majority of people in the United States are relying on Social Security for retirement to provide for them, which will leave them below the poverty line. So he indicated that savings rates were too low and the nest eggs were too low, and people were relying too much on their Social Security. So this study, it took into account about 1,100 women that were data was collected on them between the years 2000 and 2006, and these women were between the ages of 62 and 70. He found that more educated and married women were less likely to elect early withdrawal, and that if you had additional income coming from IRAs or annuities or some other source, that you were less likely to pull out Social Security benefits. So the author indicated that it's important for financial planners to educate their clients on the importance of not withdrawing early and saving often and early during your working years. So the seventh article that I reviewed discussed the market risk associated with retiring in a certain year, and how the impact of a downturn in the market during your retirement years can impact your income over the long term. And there's really no way to diversify this risk out of your portfolio since it is market wide. And you're going to retire at a certain time no matter what. So you can't really change the date you would retire too much, maybe a year or two, but not a decade, which is sometimes how long it takes for the market to recover. So he said the way to avoid this risk and ensure that your nest egg is large enough during retirement is to invest in fixed annuities or defined benefit plans, which can give you a set income level throughout retirement, which is difficult because defined benefit plans are no longer as common as they used to be. Right. The eighth article that I reviewed was indicated how much people are saving and how much they're saving throughout their working life, and if that's enough for them to retire on, and why they aren't retiring. So once again, this author indicated that 1/3 of the population is going to rely on Social Security for the retirement years, which will put them below the poverty line, which is not good enough. The reasons why people weren't saving more was, first, debt was the big one. 50% of people weren't saving enough because they were paying off their debt, and people weren't able to retire on time. 20% weren't able to retire on time due to their debt they still had to pay. A lot of the emotional reasons he saw were the delayed gratification factor, that people want what they want now and they don't want to save for things later. One problem he saw in his evaluation was that people plan to retire at the age of 65. However, the median retirement age was 58. So that'll take away 7 years of working and income years from your savings plan and gives you less time to make up for not saving early. So once again, the author indicated that financial planners are even more important, and they need to educate their clients on the importance of saving early and often for retirement. The ninth article I reviewed, once again, talked about savings adequacy of U.S. workers, and that, once again, savings rates are far too low to supplement earnings during retirement. He found that 44% of American workers are saving inadequately to retire at age 65. So there are ways. He found ways to improve your nest egg size, and none of them are very good. They're all. So the first would be to just work longer, which nobody wants to do, so working after age 65. And the second way he found to increase your nest egg size was to save more earlier, which is hard to do once you're already 50 years old. It's hard to play catch up. And then his third was to increase your investment returns or come into a windfall, which is not something we can actively pursue or anticipate easily. The 10th article I read was once again about safe savings return rates. This was on an international perspective, and the author evaluated 19 different countries and how much, using historic returns from the market, how much people would need to save in order to supplement their income. And he found that the rates in the United States were abnormally low for the 20th century because we saw abnormally high savings rates during those 100 years, and that people are using those rates now to indicate what they need to save for the future, which is not a good idea. Some of the trends I saw were that defined benefit plans are a thing of the past. We still haven't adjusted as a nation to not having retirement benefit plans. We need to save more and change the way we think about retirement. People tend to think of early retirement as retiring in their between 60 and 65, where if we saved more, we wouldn't have to wait that long. You would retire a lot earlier. This is my bibliography, which lists all the articles that I evaluated during my literature review. Each one of these articles has a one-page summary, which is in my literature review presentation, which is within my packet. I enjoyed this article, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my summary. Thank you.